it feels like being shelled constantly, and they're shelling right into your head. So the walls are moving, and it feels like an earthquake, I assume, because I've never experienced an earthquake. And you just sit there. I arrived at the feeling of apathy really quickly, because there was not much for me to do. There were no more choices. So you just sit and wonder if this one is going to get you or not.
What would you like people to know about the situation in Ukraine that they might not be aware of? You talk about the fatigue, and are there things you would like people to know about that they might not be aware of?
Well, what people are aware of really depends on how interested they are in the matter. So what I can tell you is that at first we thought that Russia brought in mobile crematoriums, and about 40,000 of those black thick body bags with them. And then on February 20th, 4 days before the war started, they passed guidelines on emergency burials that eased the process and made it okay to not dig deep, and also made it okay to loot in the occupied territories. It's not a crime under Russian law anymore. It's not punishable. It's okay to do it. And then they published this piece in the state media that has a huge audience 2 days ago, that talks about basically a genocide of Ukrainians, that we have to be wiped. We are a natural construct, Nazi-ridden, Nazi-based. We cannot be cured. We have to be wiped off the face of the earth. And if someone considers themselves Ukrainian, that's essentially anti-Russian, and therefore there's no I'll send it to you if you want, and you can quote from there. So my worry is that we thought that they would bring in the crematoria and the black bags to cover the actual losses from their side, because Putin still needs to, keep up the narrative of how they're winning and so on. But after Bucha, I begin suspecting that's not the main point. If they're just trying to wipe Ukraine off the face of the earth, they've destroyed the most blossoming cities. So Bucha was on par with Mariupol. It was a suburb of Kiev for people who had money, like young families, IT professionals. That was you made it in life if you had a condo in Bucha. I don't even know what to compare it to. It's like in New Jersey, if it's greener area with a private pool type of thing.
Okay.
So instead of living in Manhattan in a 1-bedroom, you move out to New Jersey with a proper house and things like that. So I think we're against something much bigger than we thought. And it's very unfortunate that the burden of protecting Europe and potentially the world from the evil that Russia is at the moment is entirely on us. Mm-hmm. I feel like the West has made a huge mistake in 2014, not doing anything and basically appeasing Putin after he annexed Crimea and invaded Ukraine. And I think that now we have to deal with the consequences. And while Europe is debating gas, mothers in Ukraine write details and contacts with ink, with pen on their children's backs, so that if parents are killed and the kid survives, then they can be located. And there's just disparity of understanding the realities and the dangers is staggering to me. Is the world just does not get the magnitude of what's going on. This is not a conflict, and this is neither is it a war. It's kind of a genocide that's unfolding right in the middle of Europe, with everyone else just standing and watching, and keeping Russia in the Human Rights Council.
What would you like the Western world's response to be? What would be the ideal response?
I don't like this question, because I was asked the same in 2014 and then nothing was done.
Okay.
But I'll tell you that Russia understands only force. Well, the only language they understand. So in Irpin, civilians were armed, and in Bucha they were not, and you can tell what they did where. So, you know, if you're too, first of all, the West should not be afraid to start a third world war, you know, because Russia has already done it. So the question now is, how long are you gonna, what kind of magnitude are you going to let it get to before you get involved? There's no more like we pretend it's not happening, you know. So you can stop at annexation of part of Austria in what Hitler did in the 20th century, or you can wait until the entire world is involved. So the choice is yours, and I don't like the choice the West is making. But I would say complete embargo of oil products from Russia, cut them off of SWIFT completely, and not the way it was done now. Ban Russians from traveling outside of Russia. Every single Russian is responsible for what's going on right now. They finance this regime with their taxes. They made it happen. You know, the support for Putin is overwhelming. We see this every time he starts a war. First war, Chechen war, second Chechen war, Georgia, and now Ukraine. So every time Putin starts something like this, the support for him grows, and it's not fake statistics. It's true. That's what the Russians are. So a complete oil embargo, cut them off of SWIFT, kick them, just make them as close to North Korea in terms of business communications with the Western world as possible, because they should be treated like North Korea. They're dangerous. They are probably impossible to change. They should be isolated.